On this drizzly and rather gloomy day, let's talk about why people actually like camping. Because if you think about it, to go from a modern 21st century home and then to go out into the woods in order to sleep in a trailer or even in a flimsy fabric shelter is a very strange thing to do. Yet people love it and they do it year after year. But why? Why do people do this? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. And the way we're going to go about this is actually to run through 10 different reasons that people give for enjoying camping. And the source for this list is really two main things. Number one is the giant internet robot brain that is the Google search results. Yes, I did go to Google to poke around and see what was there and what other people were saying. And this uncovered resources as reputable as the National Park Service, as well as places where normal people like you and I might post, like Quora. And so that's part of it, and another part of it is just my own personal experience with camping and also interacting with people that I know who are campers or generally just outdoorsy folks. And so that is the basis of this list, and make sure you stick around to the end where I'll tell you what my personal favorite reasons for enjoying camping are. Reason number one is food. And if you've been around my channel long enough, you know that I love to eat food and I love to cook outdoors. And in fact, I'm going to leave some links in the description below where you can find some of my favorite outdoor cooking recipes if you'd like to check those out. But one of the great things about food when you're camping is that you get to eat quote unquote camping food. These are things like s'mores, foil dinners, Dutch oven cooking, pudgy pies if you have pudgy pie makers. These sorts of things are part of the fun of camping. And another thing that makes camping food so good is that when you're outdoors, when you're being active or hiking and things like this, food just tastes better. I can remember on times going on camping or outdoor hiking, backpacking trips where I thought like, wow, this is really simple, but this is the best meal I've ever had. And so if you don't believe me, go on a 4-hour hike or something and then go and eat a really simple meal at your campsite. It's gonna be incredible. And then the third reason why camp food is so good is just because you can take your time, right? Like when you're at home during your everyday normal hustle bustle schedule, you often won't have time to cook a really nice, big, fancy meal. But when you're camping, you kind of have some extra time typically, and you can take your time to make something really, really good. And so that's food. That's part of the camping experience and one reason that people give for really enjoying it. Reason number two is tradition. So a lot of people who really enjoy camping partially enjoy it because it's associated with some tradition. Maybe it's an annual summer family trip or a friend group that goes on a weekend camping trip every so often. And so if you love camping, odds are there's some tradition associated with it. And in fact, I would encourage you, if you have some particular tradition that's around camping, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I would love for the comments of this video and this channel as a whole really to be a place where campers, both old and new, can have a little bit of a chat about outdoorsy things. So go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'll be down there chatting with people too. So I'd love to see it in there. Reason number three, and this is a big one, is it's relaxing or peaceful. A lot of us have pretty fast-paced schedules and we have a lot of hustle and bustle sometimes in our lives. And so being able to kind of disconnect from all of that and go out and operate at a slower pace is really appealing. And it can also be a time where you just pause and enjoy some hobbies that you don't normally have time for, like maybe reading a novel, or one of my favorite hobbies, taking a nap, or just anything that you want to do that kind of you don't normally have time for. You can have some time and some space to do it while you're camping, which is one of the things that people love about it. Reason number four is that it can actually be good for your health in a number of ways. First of all, there's some physical activity involved in just setting up your campsite and doing things of that nature. But if you're going camping, then oftentimes you're also going to do some other outdoor activities, like maybe you'll go on a hike or a bike ride or just play some outdoor games or sports. And all of these things can be pretty good exercise. And I also read this article from the National Park Service that was talking about how it can help you become better aligned with your natural circadian rhythms, which can help you sleep better. And if you think about it, that actually makes a lot of sense because the circadian rhythms has a lot to do with light, right? And when you're camping, when it gets dark much more completely, right? And there's not as much unnatural light sort of polluting it like you could have in your house or in a city where there's lots of light bulbs you can flick on and off to sort of distort things, right? And you can have light on at any hour of the day, but when you're camping, it gets much more completely dark, and that can be good for your sleep and for your circadian rhythms. And another thing that I'll mention is that it can also be good for your mental health, partially because of the sort of relaxation and peace things we talked about earlier, but I know for me personally that going on a camping trip can be something that relieves a lot of stress, especially because I go oftentimes with like family or friends who are already really into camping, and so that just makes it an overall positive experience that I come away from feeling recharged and rejuvenated. Reason number five is that camping is a very cheap vacation and you can save a lot of money. According to Statista, the average hotel room stay per night in 2021 was $125. And in my local area here, you can stay in a basic tent camping campsite for $20 to $25, depending on a few variables. But let's just round up and say it's $25 per night at a campsite. That means you would save $100 per night just by staying at a campsite rather than a hotel. And so that is a lot of money. If you go for a basic weekend where you're just gonna be there for 2 days, that's $200. If you're going for a weekend and you save $200, you could get a really nice meal on the way home for that money. Or let's just expand this, kind of take it to the next phase out. Let's say you stay for a week or 7 days. That would be saving roughly $700 just by camping rather than by staying at a hotel. That is a lot of money. But I know some of you are probably already thinking, well, yeah, you save some money, but you have to buy all that gear. So are you really saving money at all? The answer is yes, you are definitely still saving money. And let's talk about why. So first of all, when it comes to gear, if you're just kind of dipping your toe in the water and you're not going all in on camping, you could probably borrow a lot of the gear you would need, maybe all of the gear you would need. And if that's not gonna work for you, you can often buy a lot of pretty good gear for cheap by going on eBay or maybe going to Craigslist or going to Goodwill even and finding some old used gear that you can get really affordably. But if you don't wanna do that and you just wanna say, okay, I'm only doing this if I'm buying all new gear, well, you can still do that pretty well for the money difference between hotel nights and campsites. So let's walk through it. So first of all, you would need a tent, right? You'd have to buy a tent, but you can buy a really solid 4-person tent for $150 to $400. So on the low end, you're getting something that is only gonna be good for sort of fair weather summer camping, and it might not last a super long time, but if you go up to $400, you can get a really high quality tent like the North Face Wawona 4, which is probably gonna last you for a really long time, and it's a really nice high quality tent. Not sponsored. But then also, you're gonna need something like a sleeping bag, right? You might not have a sleeping bag. You probably could borrow one, but even if not, let's just say you have to buy a new sleeping bag. You can get a high quality summer sleeping bag for around $100 from a place like REI, okay? And so let's say you buy a whole brand new sleeping bag that's for summer camping, and so now you've got your tent for $400 and you've got your sleeping bag for another $100, but you also are gonna need to cook, right? Well, you can use a lot of the normal cooking utensils that you have around your house, but you're probably gonna need an outdoor stove of some kind unless you can do all of your camping over the fire. But let's just say you're gonna need a camping stove. Well, you can buy a camping stove that's probably gonna last you for a while from an outdoor store for about $100. You could get ones that are cheaper, but let's just say you're gonna spend $100, and you also need a canister of propane. If you get one of those sort of typical propane stoves, it'll probably cost around 10 bucks. So let's say 110 bucks. If you add all this up together, you're getting some good gear, and it's all gonna cost you somewhere in the ballpark of $610, which is still less than the $700 you would save in 1 week of camping instead of staying in a hotel. Plus, some of that gear is probably gonna last you a really long time, and so this sort of benefit is going to compound, right? And just as an example of that, I have a sleeping bag that I have had since I think I was like 15 or 16 years old, and if you look at the sleeping bag, it practically looks new. It's in great condition, and albeit it is a premium sleeping bag, it probably cost $300 back in the 90s when I got it, or the early 2000s when I got it, but it's still in great condition. And so overall, I think you can save a lot of money. It makes for a cheap vacation. My little mini rant here is over, and if you're enjoying the content in this video so far, please do let me know by just hitting the like button. That helps my channel out a ton, and it's very cheap. In fact, it's free for you to do, and it helps me out. Thanks in advance for doing that. Reason number 6 is to reconnect with nature, and this is one I really understand, especially if you're somebody who is living in a big city or lives in a small apartment or something like that. It's really refreshing just to be outdoors and to enjoy the wide open spaces, to go see the things like the leaves and the trees and the streams, maybe see some wildlife, just these normal nature things that you don't always get to see in your normal everyday life. It can be really refreshing, really rejuvenating, and it's just one of those things that if you're not in nature for a long time, that when you come back to it, you kind of appreciate it more. And so that's another one that people give. Reason number 7 is a massive one these days, and that is it gives you an opportunity to force yourself to disconnect from all of your technology, right? We all have phones, we all have computers, and we're all connected, it seems like 24/7. And when you go outdoors and you go camping, a lot of times the reception or the service isn't gonna be as good, and it just gives you a nice natural excuse to put down the cell phone and ignore all of the little notifications and to just disconnect from all of your tech for a day or a couple of days or even like a week or two. and it can be extremely refreshing just to get unplugged for a bit and just to put all of those things like at home or in the car glove box or something where it's just going to be out of sight and you can just enjoy the things that are around you. Reason number 8 is that camping can be a great adventure, and it can be fun. It can be a good way to get you out of your comfort zone. And it's also, if you go on like a high adventure style camping trip where you're doing something like backpacking or bike packing or canoe packing, all of these different sort of high adventure trips where you're camping along the way, that could be a great way to experience and see things that would be impossible to see otherwise. So for example, you could go to a place like the Boundary Waters where you can see these places that are inaccessible by anything but a canoe. Or you could go places backpacking where you can go and see things that are inaccessible any other way other than hiking to them, right? And so this is just an opportunity, camping is, in order to see things that are a bit of an adventure off of the beaten path that you wouldn't be able to find otherwise. And that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about camping in my years of doing so, and that's something that I think a lot of people enjoy as well. And so I should quickly mention that you don't want to jump straight into one of those things if you don't sort of have the preparation or the experience with them, but it is something that you can work up towards. And if you are a new camper, maybe try a local state park, something that's a little bit easy, and then you can work up to trying some high adventure trips later in the future. So just that little note there. Reason number 9 is another fun one, and it is learning new things and skills. So this is a great thing to do while you're camping because you have an opportunity to practice some things that you probably wouldn't be able to do in your house at home or in your apartment at home. And so for example, just a couple of things is you could learn some new fire building techniques, you could learn knot tying, you could learn whittling, for example. There's tons of stuff that you can learn while you're camping. And if you want some inspiration, I actually did a video that's a roundup of 9 different skills, and it's in exactly 9 minutes. I was so proud of this video. I did a 9 skills in 9 minutes video that was exactly 9 minutes long. And so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Reason number 10 is actually a really cool one, and this is that it can actually help you build much closer relationships. And I've seen this in my own personal experience. In fact, when I got married, multiple people who were in my wedding party, I actually got to know primarily through doing camping and outdoors trips. And I think part of the reason that camping is so good at just getting people to connect is it removes a lot of the normal everyday distractions that you would have and allows people to connect in a more genuine way. You don't have a million different things sort of pulling you away from the conversation. You don't have anywhere to be. You're just there with these people and you can have a deep and meaningful conversation about life and about how things are going. And I think that's a really amazing thing that we don't get in too many other places in our lives these days. And so you can kind of just get past that surface level weather chit chat and down to things that actually matter. And so that's another reason why camping is so great. And I did promise you that I'd tell you my personal favorite of these different reasons for enjoying camping. And I am a person who loves going camping. And my favorite is actually the most recent one, of building stronger relationships with people. I've been camping with my own family for years, and I think it's a great way for us all to connect or to reconnect. And I've also been camping with various friend groups, and it's also a great way to get to know those people better. And so that's my favorite. And I also want to make a little short announcement here. I've started posting every week on Wednesday, so a new schedule here. And if you are liking that schedule, please let me know in the comments. And if there's any video that I've done recently that you like in particular, I'm sort of making a schedule for what videos I'm going to do next. So do let me know that in the comments below as well. That's all. See you in the next one. Bye.